Good morning everybody and welcome back to another episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Remastered, where today, as is said in the title, we're not doing a new set, we're actually going back to a much maligned old set. And that is of course today's Z0022, the Ganondorf Horseback Duel, potentially the worst set we've ever done here on the channel, and one from Wave 2. This set originally released with 157 pieces, and you probably can't actually tell from the box, it was sort of like a little like diorama where the horses would like move up and down, recreating the chase sequence from the final boss sequence from that game. And obviously this is much hated. There are many problems with this. It's not an interesting build, it's not a particularly cool display, and the figures are really the only draw. So I've redone it from scratch in its form of its original vision, in a sense. Back in the day with the plans and stuff, this was always meant to look a little bit different. So without any further ado, let's introduce to you the new and improved, and you're going to hate me first, the Z0022, the Ganondorf Horseback Duel. It looks the same, but hold on, as I said, designed from the upstairs, because this is now a 2-in-1, where it is also Z0022, the Ganondorf Horseback Escape, but it looks much cooler. And this involves almost every single part. This is a rebuild, a 2-in-1, and this was actually the original plan. So here you can see the box art. This is one of those flip boxes that when you flip it over, it has like the other design on the back. It's kind of cool like that. And you can see here that there are definitely some similarities and like things you can see between the two, but they are, as I said, the same product. You can rebuild it from one into the other, and this appeases both the people that like the quirky little concept and the fun play feature of the horses, the people who want the figures, but then the people that want these like small little builds and recreating a really iconic end sequence that really doesn't have much to go off. So of course, for those of you that know, the sequence at the end of Twilight Princess involves the Dark Beast Ganon fight, the Puppet Zelda fight, those two are backwards, and that's in the castle, and then you go out onto horseback where you chase him and shoot him using the light arrows, and then there's of course the one-on-one duel in the weird arena. So we're trying to recreate as many of that as possible here. Now I did originally want to have the beast, but that would have upped the piece count, and obviously I'm sticking to a budget here. But as you can see, it's a far improvement over the original, using a little bit less actually piece-wise as well, 145 down from 157, and I think creating a much nicer landscape, or at least it's nicer to look at, and it's got some extra features of course as well. So let's jump straight on in. So as mentioned, this is Z0022, but the remastered version, with 45 pieces now, retailing for the same Great British pounds of 15, with 3 figures and technically 2 brick characters if you count the horses. And just showing the other picture here, let's quickly read the new description. Bring climatic conclusion of Twilight Princess to light with this charming kinetic sculpture simulating the horseback duel against Ganondorf. Easily displayable with exclusive Ganondorf minifigure, this is one for collectors. However, those with smaller hands and bigger imaginations can rebuild the sword fighting arena for a more creative showdown, or just to chase Ganondorf around the living room. When its play is over, rebuild into an arena fit for a final boss as you change the model to represent the iconic scenes from this final showdown. And here is that other build up close. We'll start with a more interesting one, I think, before we get back into the kinetic sculpture, of course, which is still the main draw, and I wasn't going to back down. That was my goal with this set, so it was important for me to see that through. So anyway, let's take a look at the elements. Let's take a look at this one first. It's probably the most recognizable. It's a very small terrain, but remember, we're working with a limited piece budget because everything here is reused pretty much in the other model. So this is supposed to represent those fence sequences from the final like foot duel. So you've got a little bit like rocks around it. It's just to add some color and some decoration. And then on this green base, of course, you've got these stickers on these 1x6x5 panels with the Twilight pattern on it that obviously uses to pen in the final arrangement. You've also got these 2 plates here, and naturally those are for you to put your figures on so that you can balance them in more active poses and sort of like move them backwards and forwards easier. You could always duel with a friend, and of course you've got this little backdrop, which of course, as you might expect, can obviously be folded backwards and forwards like this, and that's obviously just to recreate whatever shape you want on your product. There's also another build though. This is a 2-build one. Again, all of these parts are still inside the mechanism for, despite looking like complete different colours, they're all in the mechanism for the kinetic sculpture. And you can see this is the throne from the throne room. So this is your representation for the evil Zelda fight, and then of course technically the Beast Ganon fight, although it's not included. You've got 2 amazing stickers on 2x6 tiles, which then form part of the decoration on the main box. Yes, we got rid of those unfortunately placed stickers on the original. If you know, you know. You've also got the white throne with a little bit of gold around the top, using a little bit of snot techniques. The blue rug coming down the middle. This is actually so you can recreate another scene, which we'll get to in the middle. And of course, a seat there. You may be wondering, well, how is Zelda going to sit on it? Because Zelda has a dress piece in this set, and of course that's not going to work very well. Well, Rivendell came out this year and gave us a brand new technique for that. Looking around the back looks very ugly. As I said, it's making pieces used from everywhere. You've got the 2 studs on the chair, and as I said, it's just built off a simple base. And here you go. Yeah, so she can sit on it perfectly fine, and that is just because of the technique they introduced in Rivendell to allow characters with dresses to sit down, which is a bracket plate, a slope and a plate, which will take a close-up look, which has a stickered version of her normal dress print on it. And this just means that she can sit on the chair. But she can also stand up at the front and do that scene where she drops the sword. She doesn't have a sword to do it, but you can imagine when Ganondorf takes the castle at the beginning. I know that's Zant technically, but you can recreate it in some capacity here, is the point I'm getting at. There's also this thing, and this is actually just included on the front of the model in the kinetic sculpture side, but it's just a big 6x6 sticker or print, maybe, who knows, probably a print, with some brackets behind it, which is sort of just like a random logo. It looks a lot better on the kinetic sculpture. So, of course, this was the original one, back from over 2 years ago now when we designed it, and you can see things have changed a lot as we go into our new design here. So, we've changed a couple of big things. No longer is it a yucky olive green base. Obviously now we have the alternate build, so a lot of things had to be changed in order to get you the parts that you needed to make that build possible. You've got a variation of the mountains in the back, just supposed to represent landscapes in distance. We actually changed the colour of the grass to dark green as well, just to give it a little bit more contrast. And you can see off to the side the 3 pieces that are left over from the other build. Everything else, apart from obviously tiny spare parts, is included in this model with this grey box here. You can also notice the crank on the side, and that is what you turn in order to make the new mechanism work. The mechanism has been completely redone using a smaller cam system in order to take up less space, so I think it is a little bit smaller here, and you can see that those stickered tiles have been actually used with a snot technique on the front in order to fit them in there and sort of make them flush with the box, which is now grey, obviously, instead of olive green. You'll notice a couple of white bits on the side, that's sort of a compromise, and of course around the back you will notice that those orange pieces sort of make up the back mechanism. You could almost see it like magic that way. At the top, got some of the new fern pieces, a wonderful new addition that I'm excited to add to many more customs, as well as a couple of leaf decorations just to make it look more like a field, and you can see a little bit of the mechanics of the platforms that the horses will sit on. As mentioned around the back, those stickered parts make up the back wall, and actually kind of cool, you can sort of see some of the other parts on the throne making up the mechanism on the inside, not too well. So now let's cycle through it. As you can see, as you sort of move that crank up and down, it's going to sort of like jump the horses up and down to make them look like they're galloping, which is pretty cool. We like that, right? That looks pretty cool. Like, so they're sort of galloping after each other, and of course you'd have your figures on the top chasing after each other. Pretty cool. Next up, of course, taking a look at the front, you can see those stickers up and close. As I mentioned, they're nice and flush. They're sort of supposed to be designed from the throne room, really. So that obviously is the 3 golden goddesses above the throne, and then these are actually the pillars that appear next to the throne in game, as you would have seen in the reference material. Usually there's 2 of them on each side, and they're sort of the medallions are a little more spread out. But here they are. It works perfectly fine, and it's got some of those iconic symbols from the game on it as well, just decorating the front in an appropriate way that's also suitable for that secondary model. And from the top, of course, you can see I've filled in as many of the gaps as possible with dark green to make it as flush as possible. There were, of course, 3 pieces left over, the 2 dark green circles, so you could still have a fight, and there's 1 golden tile. Here you can see, of course, that they will sit next to each other, and you'll be able to fight them off the horses as well, even in the A model, just giving people more that reason to love the wackier one here. But really what sells this is the fact that none of you can be mad that this is just a kinetic sculpture anymore, because it's no longer. It's a playset if you want it to be, admittedly a pretty bare bones playset, but a playset nonetheless. By the way, I should mention, when you have the playset built, yes, of course there's leftover pieces. I was not going to include stuff like the crank to make the playset worse. So it is what it is. You get pieces left over if you want to display the little scenes, or if you want to build the kinetic, of course, you get nothing over, but you still get the things. But the point is, options is there. And what makes me really happy is that this sort of comes back to its original vision and its original goal. I always planned for you to be able to build the arena in some form from the parts in this set, and that never came true, because obviously the arena was just so different from the landscape that you fight on the horses. So it's really nice to see that vision come to fruition. I really wish I had the sketches with me to show you obviously that original plan, but let me promise you this, it was originally planned from day one that it would be able to do this. So it's really cool to see something that I didn't have the skill to do at the time be viable now, and it is just such an upgrade. Again, let me just compare those side by side. What an ugly grey olive green block. Probably still one of the worst custom sets, but just no longer the worst. You know, there are some worse ones out there. Let me know what the worst one I've done ever is down below, because this was certainly one of them. I think my vote goes for the Ice Battle Pack, also from Wave 2. Wave 2 is my favourite wave, but it has some real stinkers. Anyway, let's take a look at the figures, because I've made a couple of upgrades. This is, of course, the Twilight Princess Link, but this time I didn't give him blue eyes, which is sensible. Why did he have blue eyes before? I don't know. So yeah, looking identical as before. And then the TP Zelda, same thing. She had the anime eyes before, but we've got rid of those in favour of a normal eye style. Everything else is the same, apart from, of course, the fact that there's the alternate dress model here, which, as I mentioned, is just a sticker on a 2x2 slope with a plate and a bracket, exact same as the Rivendell technique. And I'll be using this, of course, across as whenever I can that's appropriate. This is mostly because of the throne. I love this technique. It's one of those things that you never thought you needed, but then of course once LEGO did it, it's like, oh yes, this is perfect. So look forward to seeing this more and more as we go through. And then of course Ganondorf is the one that hasn't changed at all. Really, his eyes need a little bit of an update, but it wasn't bad enough for me to like change it. And of course he's using a custom head mold for his hair and ears all together, just a normal cape, and then some fantastic printing across the rest of his body. And here are those comparisons right next to each other. You can see, of course, the original ones used the disgusting eyes, and then the new ones. Really, the printing here didn't need too much of an update. I mean, I could have done a better job, sure, but like it wouldn't have made a huge difference. So, to be honest, there aren't many Wave 2 figures that need like full reskins. Obviously, there are certain ones that I do plan on redoing eventually, and Toon Link specifically, but mostly the Wave 1 ones. Wave 2 I started to get a little bit more consistent, and obviously we want them to be super consistent. I don't want to redraw like over 150 figures. I'll redraw anyone that needs redoing desperately. Like these faces here were pretty bad, but they really didn't need big changes, so hopefully that makes sense. Maybe one day I'll change my mind if my drawing gets like superbly better, but I'm happy with how they're going at the moment. But that's actually going to bring it all to a close for this remaster of Ganondorf Horseback Duel. I hope this was a wonderful gift of the magical Christmas season to you. I know a couple of you have been after a remaster of this for a while because it really was truly the worst. Let me know, would you guys be interested in seeing me rank the sets again now that we've got so many more? Maybe I'd wait until the end of the first half of the Tears Wave, or even the full Tears Wave potentially, but let me know which is your least favourite down below and whether this is an improvement, of course, and I will see you all next time for the next custom set next week. I know, right? Just giving the gifts this December, and of course it's an exciting one, so I will see you very soon. Bye bye.